Well, welcome everybody back to the Growing Money with Sean Trace podcast. I've got a really interesting guest with me today, and would you like to tell people who you are and a little bit about what you do?
Okay, so my name is Chris Harcksen-Lucero, and I am a financial coach, but I have kind of a unique background. I'm actually a full-time flight paramedic working on a helicopter, and I've been a first responder working in EMS for almost 70, well, what is it, 37 years now? Oh my gosh, it's been, yeah, a long, long time. So just
That's
a little bit of
awesome.
the background makes me just a little bit different than a lot of other coaches.
Yeah. How I want to ask about both, but how did you get into coaching? Let's start with that.
Well, the funny thing is about coaching, it's like I'm into peer support, mental health, resiliency, and over the years, the longer that you're in, it's like how long can you stay in, right? You either become a person who's the burnt out or letting the business drag you down, or you shift to the other side and you become someone who works on not only pulling yourself up, but and everybody else. And so in a natural way, I just started coaching and peer support and that kind of a thing, and found out that, well, one of the things I've always loved is money. And sometimes we don't realize how much finances tie to our physical and mental health. And so
Yeah.
I was like, hey, this is a way that I can contribute without going back to college to become a therapist.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting because um, I like that you talk about resilience because that's one of my big things. I love talking about resilience, and again, and I say this almost every podcast. I started this because I've got a small 8-year-old daughter, and again, always in the back of my mind is getting skills and information that I can teach to her. And I think that one of the things that I try to push the most with her is this idea of resilience. And I don't hear about people talking about resilience with finances as much as they could be, but resilience and finance, they do go hand in hand because, you have good months and you have bad months. You have months where you get ahead and you get months where you get slammed, and it's like, but resilience is really important for personal finance as well.
Yeah, I mean, I love that you're thinking of that, because I feel like so many times we're always trying to avoid pain, prevent anybody else, our children, from having pain. And of course, we don't want them to go through anything bad, but it's just there are things that are going to come up in life. There's going to be challenges. And resilience just means it doesn't mean you don't have issues or problems or challenges. It just means you're in a place that when you have those, you're able to come back from it. And you know that no matter what you go through in any way, anything that happens to you, that you're always going to be able to come back and you want to be stronger and better. And finances, it just hits us, like you're saying, all the time, because money really does affect everything that we do. It may not always motivate us, but it does set the playing field for the fun things that we can do, the activities, the places, the people, and the way we get to interact. Money kind of jumps in there and plays. And I want people to set up their life so that if something like this last year, the economy, when COVID hit, there's always something that's going to come up in our financial life that, again, you're going to bounce back and be stronger because of it.
Yeah. One of the things too, like that you hit on there, and there's a couple things that I want to poke at that were really great. But last year was tough for many people, and like I know the news tells everyone the economy's great, everything's great. Meanwhile, I know people who have been out of work. It's one of the worst job markets I've ever seen. People are just, like I've seen so many people posting on LinkedIn saying, I am desperate right now. And it's interesting because um, it is a time where people are having to dig deep, financially having to dig deep. People are having to look at, what are the things that I really need? Where can I step back and not be getting those things? And it's a time where people are having to kind of learn about who they are and what they are capable of going without, or what they really need. So, Yesterday, Jensen Huang, the head of NVIDIA, one of the biggest companies in the world right now, he stated, I his bit of advice for people was, I hope more young people learn that they need to suffer. And I was just like, what? Okay, talk to me here. There is something to be said for when people encounter times of scarcity, people encounter times of lack, people encounter times of difficulty, because you realize that, one of the biggest dangers, I think, for people is that they feel like they're too safe, and that feeling of safety can be really dangerous financially. Like, I was sitting there thinking, I want to make a move back to the US. I'm overseas right now. And I was sitting there looking at my house, but I was like, but I've got this house, but I've got this, I've got this. And I was in this feeling of safety. But then, one of my friends messaged me and said, you know what happened yesterday? They lived up in north of Los Angeles and their house burned down. And,
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh,
we just have these situations, that uncertainties all around us. But by learning about financial principles, we can better prepare ourselves for those uncertainties. We can better make ourselves more resilient for these challenges.
I find it interesting because there's someone I've trained with for peer support, and one of the things she always used to say is, pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice.
I love that.
So that I feel that so in his comment, yes, in pain we are gonna go through things that are painful and we are gonna go things that are uncomfortable, but we don't have to just sit down and suffer every single day through it, right? We have choices that we can make. What I love about being a first responder is that I get to help people. You always say, oh, we help people on their worst day. So the
Mm.
perspective is it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, you see the most important things in life. You're like, I want to come home. I want my family safe. I want my family safe. I want, my health and those kind of things. The core of what would satisfy you and be valuable to me, those kind of things. But then it's a double edge because seeing things like that sometimes then makes you go, work hard, play harder. So there's this
Yeah.
balance of trying to um, plan and then compartmentalize what's truly important. I think what he was meant to me, what he's saying in that suffering comment is that when we are too comfortable, we just don't plan. We just we feel entitled. We don't plan about things. We think that if it's good right now, it's going to be good forever. And it's the same on the other side. If it's bad, it's going to be bad forever. So it's like getting your mindset into the right place of, okay, there's going to be ups and downs because you can't appreciate what you do have until you didn't have it, right?
Yeah. I love what you just said there, because it really is. If I've been gleaning anything from since I started this podcast, one of the most important things is that everything with your finances in your life, it's all about mindset. It
Mhm.
really is about mindset, because you can be, on all the self-talk you have, the mindset that you have is something that enables you to go out and create. I'm reading this great book right now about how to get your life set straight. It's a wonderful self-help book. It's a very irreverent title, so I won't say it here. But the idea is, we have all these thoughts. We've got all this stuff going on up here, and a lot of it's not true. But our thoughts don't make us. What makes us is our actions. And that your mindset is your overarching pattern strategy that you use to chart your actions. Today, I am recording a podcast right now, and I don't know what's going on with the rest of the day. I know I have to edit one today too, a different one, but those are my goals right now. That's what I'm doing. And my mindset is, I can do one thing right now. That I have to prepare. I got all these things I've got to work on, but you know what? That's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome that I can set out and create something, and the mindset of, I can do this, I can handle this, is what it's all about. With money, I feel like a lot of time people get into these different mindsets, and there's some programming they have that kind of came in from different things that kind of might not be serving them so well. I'd love to hear you talk on mindsets a little bit around finances.
I love it. I'd say, we use the word mindset a lot now, if you're like, "Oh, I need to change my mindset." But it's also, if you boil it down to the easy way of saying it, is the stories
I
that
like
we tell ourselves.
that.
And these stories, where we get all of our stories are, it's either something we saw, someone showed us, right? And we're like, "Oh, that's the way it has to be." Like, I love the one that says, "You'll always have debt," or, "I'll always have a car payment or a house payment," or things like that. That's a story that a lot of people say.
Yeah,
And then it depends on how you were raised and where you come from, with how you saw money, what you learned about it, what you read about it. And so all of those things kind of like come into this story that we tell ourselves. So if you were with somebody and that's always what they used credit cards all the time, they got in debt all the time, that you never could buy anything, it was hard to get money, so every time you got money, you better spend it because someone's gonna take it, or you get this different, so it's is a mindset, but it's a story now that you tell yourself, and that's the way that it has to be. And just realizing, taking a step back and going, "Okay, does it have to be this way?" It might
yeah,
be real, like, sometimes our feelings feel real to us, our
yeah,
thoughts feel real, but are they
right,
true? Like you're saying, is it true? Because is it a feel is okay, yes, it feels this way to me, and I get anxiety around it, or I don't feel good about it. Um, but is that a true feeling, a truth comment, a true thought? And does that have to stay that way? Because a
right,
lot of times what gets us to where we are today, I'm a makeup of all the things and all the experiences that I've had, right? And a lot of things I've thought have got me where I am today. But are those the same thoughts and mindset and stories gonna get me to where I wanna actually go? So I
100%.
love
Well,
changing that.
you can change it, and that's the thing. Like, maybe you were bad with money. At some point in time, maybe you weren't the best with money, but that
Mhm.
truth at that time doesn't have to be true now. Like, you can change that, right? I Last year I went through and I did my in no 2013 I 2000 not geez, time flies, 2023 I did my MBA, and it was all online, and I finished it early last year. But one of the things that was
Congratulations.
interesting, thank you.
That's a
I was
good big
really
deal.
worked my butt off, and I'm still learning. And now I'm obsessed with Coursera and all of their online courses that I'm doing, and I'm adding certificates, and I just love learning. But one of the things too is I was sitting there as I was making a pivot in my career, and I came up and I was working just mainly in video production. And I was like, you know what? I want to be more versed in all these different areas of marketing and versed in different areas of business and analytics. And one of the things that was interesting to me was that I had a couple of these concepts as I was working through my degree that, when I got into finance, when I got into accounting, and would sit there and I was like, I tell my classmates, I'm not good with numbers. And then one of my classmates was like, yeah, you are. You just did all this math really easily. Like, this wasn't hard for you. I was like, yeah, but it's not easy for me. And my friend who's an accountant said, it's not easy for me. And it's like,
Okay.
it's not easy for anyone. Like, this is, maybe you're some math whiz. Okay. But like most people, it's not easy. You work through it, you understand the concepts. And I was like, wow, really? Or, I had a really rich relative. And the other day, and I always looked up to them as a kid going, you know what? He was so good with money. He was so rich. He had all these cars. He had all these horses. And then all of a sudden I thought one day, I was like, wow, he bought like 20 cars. Like, that is not a smart investment. He had a horse farm. Also, probably not the smartest investment. It was just for leisure. He wasn't doing anything with it. It wasn't showing these horses. It was just to show off money. And all of a sudden I was like, this person that was this icon of wealth for me growing up, I suddenly realized was bad with money. Was really bad with money. And it was a this wake up that sometimes the stories that we have in head are not true. And we have the power. And one of the things that I'm loving, every time I finish a certificate on Coursera, and Coursera is not sponsoring me, I just really enjoy the courses. Every time I finish one of those certificates, and I got to put that certificate up on my LinkedIn, it's almost like I'm back in the Boy Scouts and I'm wearing that badge. And you know what? I'm like, and I loved that as a kid. I wasn't in Boy Scouts, but it was something like the Boy Scouts. And I got to put those patches on my sash.
Mhm.
And when I put them on there, I sat there and said, you know what? I can do that. And it was a step-by-step process of allowing me to change my narrative. I wish that someone was doing that for personal finance, where you get to put all these badges on as you start to learn. I learned about investing. Look at that. It might not be perfect, but I got my level one investing. I mean, wouldn't it be so much more fun, personal finance, if we could gamify things like that? I mean, at least my opinion.
Well, that's the whole thing about it. It's like one of the myths are, I would say, that so many people think that they're bad with money or somebody else is better with money. And
Right?
the funny thing is it's a perception. We don't know. We really don't know. We can only kind of see on the outside. And a lot of people, I remember growing up, my parent, don't ask people what they make it for money. Don't talk about money. You don't talk about money. You don't ask people what they make. You don't do anything.
Right?
Now I talk about money all the time. And I try to be very transparent with my own money so that, again, I'm not gonna ask somebody to tell me something I'm not willing to share, right? And we think that we should just automatically be good with money because we make it. You go, you get a job, you make money, automatically you should know what to do with it. And
Yeah,
that's not true. It's a skill. It's a skill to
100%.
be learned. It's a skill to be learned for each person. And the math part of it, there is math, but you'll hear the experts will say math is only 20% of money behavior.
Yeah,
Because I have clients who they're like, "Oh, I'm terrible with math in general, and I don't understand numbers." And we put into place a system that still works for them, but it's not a numbers problem, because if it was just a numbers problem, we could plug it into some, uh, AI appy thing, and it would tell you what to do. It's the behavior on the other side. What does that item represent? What does the money represent? What are all the things that money gets us?
yeah.
Status or prestige and, items and luxuries, and, so it's kinda funny who you thought was they're rich. That's pretty funny
Hmm.
because, yeah, you would think they are rich, and maybe they really were rich and they could have all those luxuries because they were so
Right.
rich, but we also don't know. So,
Yeah.
again, it's our perception of what does a rich person look like? The guy in the bigger house with the bigger mortgage?
And I love like what you're pointing out there, because we don't have a clarity. There was it, let's talk about money. Like, let's everyone start talking about money. Start talking about how much you make. Start talking about, what jobs are paying well, what jobs don't pay well. Because maybe people will avoid that job, or maybe we need to start saying that person deserves to be paid more money. It's like
Mhm.
there was this Instagram channel that I really enjoy, and I think they're called Salary Transparency Street or something like that. And they go
Mm.
around, and it's the new, Gen Z loves to go up and go, "Hey, how much do you make?" and stuff like that. But they walked up to people, and they were going, "How much do you make? What's your job?" And it was really interesting to see people talk about money. And at first, I felt like this was very cringe. I was just like, "Ooh, how can you walk up and ask someone how
'Cause
much
that
they
is so
make?"
it's so personal,
Yeah.
right? Because we put value not just on the money,
Yep.
but people, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a mistake too.
It is, and it felt so awkward, like that they're going up and doing this, and I was just like, you guys can't do that. That's not good. But one of the things that afterwards I thought was like, I was like, man, I didn't know people in tech were making so much money. Like, that's an insane amount of money. And the other
Yeah.
side, I was like, I can't believe that our teachers in America are getting paid so horribly. It's like, that's a crime. It's horrible that our teachers are not paid. This is the people that are crafting the future. And without diving down that rabbit hole, if we're not talking about money, no one's aware of what everyone respects. And it's like, gosh, I wish that I had have seen that Instagram before I went to college. Probably would have affected, some of my choices that I made.
Yeah. I mean, you hear right now, like a big thing is student loan debt on all the controversy. So without talking about the controversy of pay it off, don't pay it off, however it is, what there was that huge push, and I'm a trade. I went to a
Yeah.
trade. I went into becoming an EMT and a paramedic. I all through high school, I was gonna go into law enforcement. Those were always going to be I was always gonna be a trade person, not an not overly educated. I don't wanna insult anybody who has a lot of
No.
education because I love learning, but trades were important, college was important. There was a shift, I don't know, some people say 10, 15 years ago, maybe even more, where everything you heard about was college, college, college.
Right.
And but they didn't give them the information on the flip side. I work with clients who come to me with large amounts of debt, student loan debt, and other debt because they were told, go to college and then you're going to come out and you're going to have this degree and then you're going to get this great profession. And they'd had no concept of money or what things really cost. And they have and education is great except for the person who spends 150,000 to get a
Right.
degree to earn 50,000 or 30,000. That's the
100%.
problem.
And
That's the
that
problem.
this is one of my first degrees that I was going toward that I stepped away from was because of that, because it was just I was just like, wow, this is adding up fast. And they promised me, and some of my friends graduated and were
Mhm.
like, I can't make any money. And I was like,
Right.
that is not okay. That's not okay. And so, I think that I'm a huge fan of the trades. If I could go back in time, I would definitely look at the different trades. And there's so many things out there that are unique. I feel like coming back to mindset, I think that we need to start teaching people about different mindsets, start educating people. And for me, I'm
Mhm.
all about financial education. And so this is, again, one of the reasons I wanted to create this podcast to help start being one of the people who talks about this. And I mean, and thank goodness there's so many great financial podcasts out there. And I think that hopefully people can start waking up to this, whether it's through someone on Instagram teaching them about money, someone on TikTok, someone on a podcast, someone on YouTube, wherever it might be that you find it. Hopefully people can start getting this information and start making changes. What's some of the best financial advice that you were ever given?
Oh, I always think my early money education that I learned was probably from my grandma. We would always play, she was a waitress and her whole life, and she had come out here to California from Oklahoma when she was 18 years old, and she only had a 8th grade education, but that woman, she she ended up saving a lot of money, managing better monies, and was able to, spoil me, uh, growing up, but she just was always like she always would tell me, "Whenever you get something, always put a little something away. Always put a little something away. Don't don't be a big debt person." I like so debt was never like a big thing for me. Even I'd made some debt mistakes here and there, um, just doing dumb things, but those little voices always were in my head from her telling me that. How to, get a checking account and don't extend yourself beyond, buying more than what you can afford. It'll put you on a bad path, always those kinds of things. On the flip side, the scarcity mindset, which is not a good mindset, I fight
Yeah.
that from, things I've witnessed from my parents and some the way my parents view money, and so I fight that scarcity mindset, and I wanna have more of an abundance mindset. An abundance mindset does not mean you're a person who blows money. I think a lot of times people think scarcity people save and abundance people just blow money left and right. That's not true.
Yeah.
It's just
One of
believing that
the
money's gonna come in and you're gonna do positive things with it.
There was I love that you said that because there was one person that I was listening to who said we need to redefine what an abundance mindset means. Because there's some people who think abundance mindset means I'm going to Bali next week and then I'm going to go buy a new car. And my friend that I was speaking with on the podcast said abundance mindset is simply a reframing that there is financial opportunity everywhere. Everywhere you look, there is the ability to make money. There's the ability to turn something in front of you that looks like a disadvantage into your financial advantage. Like
Mhm.
maybe you see a person walking down the street and they look hot. Well, you have a bike, you can ride up the street, buy them an umbrella or a hat, and ride back and say, hey, you look hot. Do you want to buy this? And they don't have the bicycle, so that they don't have the ability to move easily to go get it. And right there, it's an opportunity. And she's like, that's what I see as an abundance mindset, is just the understanding that, okay, I am short on funds right now. What can I do? What do I have in my ability to create extra funds? Because there is stuff there. There are ways that you can create money, and that's what my friend reframed it, and I love that. Talk to me about your ideas about an abundance mindset.
I love that reframing thing, and I love so because I'm in the medical profession, I love the body and how the body works, how our brain works,
Yeah,
and our brain is actually always looking to give us the things that we want. And what I mean by that is, and it's lazy at the same time. It likes to work as low and keep the calories down, right? But it's like I use the example. If you are thinking that you want to buy a car, a blue car, right now, just thinking about having a blue car in your life, or it could be another item, your brain will start to seek that out, right? Next thing you know, you're like, I see blue cars everywhere, or,
yeah,
whatever it happens to be, right? Our brain is constantly like searching to give us the things that we would like. So when you're thinking of those positive things, the things that are improving your life, improving other people's lives, and you think about life like that, those things the opportunities start to come up. When they were always there, that we just didn't notice them. And you'll
yeah.
hear every once in a while when someone will say, you go into nature and you think and you like try to get, and it counts a little woo-woo, right? People are like, oh, I want to be with one with the world, and I start to notice the butterfly. It's true. You don't necessarily have to be woo-woo about it, but you just kind of like thinking of as things as don't have to be so hard, things don't have to
Yep.
be so difficult, that there is opportunity, and you're, like, slowing your mind down and asking your mind to try to find those things and see those things, and your brain will start to do that. And that's just
It,
that's amazing how the body works.
one of the things that I noticed is when I bump a toe and I have an injured toe, my goodness, I will have every way possible to bump that toe. I don't know how it's possible, but when you're like, "Ah, I got to be really careful of that toe, 2 minutes later you stub it. I'll go through my regular waking day and never stub my toe. But when I've hurt a toe, I find it. And it's
Mhm.
crazy like that. Like if you're focusing on something, it almost hones in on it. So you have to figure out what is it that you want to focus on. Because if you're focusing on the wrong things, it's not good. Oh, I am this problem. Oh, I don't have this. Oh, I'm
Mhm.
always out. Oh, and certainly you might have some problems, but it's also about knowing kind of that dichotomy of control. Like, all right, I've got this problem. What can I do about it? Can I
Correct.
fix it? If I can't fix it, then just let it go and find something that I can control right now. Um, say someone, and I always like one of the things too, and I really want to be maybe not enough people are advocates for this, and I want to be one of the advocates on this and speak more on this. I hear everyone talking about saving, 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 cut your spending, cut your spending. But I think some people need to focus on making more money. And I don't hear enough people talking about that. It's like, oh, you gotta cut all that. Cut. Certainly you do. We all have to learn how to budget. We have to learn how to be careful with our finances. But maybe you do need to learn how to make more money. And one of the things too, like I don't have enough money. If you're focusing on not having enough money, you're not going to create new opportunities to maybe get a raise or change jobs or shift into a different arena. Like one of the things that I was talking to my friends about, living overseas, there's a certain cap on how much I can make just because
Mhm.
that's the earning pool in the area that I'm at. And, you know, people like, oh, you should aspire for this. This is what you should aspire to. And I was like, no, man, I don't want to aspire here. I want to change the whole picture. I want to aspire here because it's a whole different mindset. It's a whole different place. And what I'm getting to is that sometimes when we get stuck in this box, you're going to just be attracting things that are still in that box. You have to be willing to completely look at a different mindset and to change everything up so that you're like, I'm not going to be in this box anymore. I'm going up here. This is where I want to be. But here's one of the crazy things that I think that is that a little bit woo woo, and that's okay. That when you want to do something like this, you have to hope or pray or be intentional about asking for help from whatever it is that you believe in to see something different. Let me explain. If I live in a tropical country, and every time I interact with people here, that is something I love. But there are downsides and there's upsides. The weather, that's an upside.
Yes.
But when I interact with people here and we talk about snow, so my daughter had this winter photo shoot. We took some pictures for her for Christmas. It was like Christmas pictures, you know. And they had all of this fake snow, and they're like, hold it up to your face, rub it on your face. And I was like, these people have never been around snow. You don't do that. You're gonna be
Yeah.
freezing. You don't just pick it up and rub it on. That's not how you do snow. It's so
No.
cold. You know, you're not gonna be doing that with snow. But the people that I interact with have
That's so
no
funny.
experience around snow and they're just laying it. And I mean, okay, snow angels, all right, I get that. But like after a snow angel, when you get that snow down the back of your snowsuit, it's cold. You're not going to be so happy anymore. You know,
No.
the worst thing in the world is snow down the boots.
Oh
I
God,
remember
yeah.
as a kid, that was the worst experience for me. You have to be able to get into this new place. And once you get into that new place, suddenly it's like there was this great video going around the internet of this fish that was stuck in a small pond. And the fish was like actually moving across land. It was like wiggling in to get to the sea. So it was this small little space. It looks like the tide had gone down, but this fish was smart enough to know this is not my home. I need to get over there. And that's one of the things that I think about mindset shifts is, and this is why I think that people should either take classes or work with a coach who can help you see that next place. If I want to open up a new business, I'm actually trying to open a new business right now. And some of the people I'm talking to have never opened a business. And because of that, the stuff that they're telling me, the advice they're giving me is not good. It's not advice that actually is going to be helpful in opening my business. So what should I do? Well, I need to talk to people who've opened a business. The other day, I posted just yesterday on LinkedIn, who has opened a business? Who can talk to me about creating an LLC? I want to talk to you. And someone messaged me and I was like, there we go. Because if I'd have used one of the people that I've been around, they're not going to
Uh-huh.
give great advice. Talk to me about that.
I It is so true. It it's so hard to want to do something different than
Yeah.
what everybody around you is doing. Being against the norm, going against everything that, and if you're a big fish in a little pond or a little fish in a little pond and looking around, there's the few people that look around and go, "You know what? Yeah, this isn't good enough for me right now. I'd like something more."
Yeah.
And you get pushback, right? Because no
Yeah.
one wants to see you're different. Different gets kind of like, "Hey, different got you killed in the tribe if you went different," right? And
Right?
so that kind of like it comes up, so knowing. And then again, everybody is so happy to give advice, money advice, marriage advice, relationship, all the things, but you have to look at them and go, "Okay, are they living it? Do I
Right?
want to be like them, or do I wanna just listen to that?" You know what I mean? And so it's like, there's that part one is getting some education outside of what you see around you. Who's doing what I want to be doing? What are they doing? What's different for them, right? There's that education part. And then we can all read a bunch of things and listen to podcasts and listen to books and get smarter. Well, what are you going to do now? Now you're just smarter, you know more, but what are you going to do about it? Are you going to actually make a plan, make a change, risk a little something? Until people are super uncomfortable, they're happy because a lot of times you're like, I'm sitting in this, I'm in a crap sandwich. I say it all the time, but at least I know how it tastes. What
Yeah.
if I have a different one and might taste worse, but it also might taste better? Right?
Yeah.
And being able to also willing to risk and fail. And I always say things like, children, we ask children for 12 years that we put them in school, right? We ask them to go learn something new, try, fail, try again, right? We encourage them, but all of a sudden we become an adult and we don't like that try fail thing. It doesn't feel
Right.
good. And so
Doesn't.
a lot of times we stop growing because we're just not used to dealing with failure. And we have to just like reframe that whole thing. You're not failing. Like when clients come to me or we're going with something, I'm like, well, what have you tried? But what have you tried in the past? From where you are right now, you're not happy right with where you are, or you want to do something different. What have you tried? What did you learn from that? What did you like about it? Did you like anything about it? Or did you like nothing about it? Because maybe we just have to tweak one or two things. Maybe we just have to up level something or remove something. It's just as adults, I feel like if something doesn't come easy, we kind of just go, well, I'm just not good at it when we just like throw it out. And there's just some things you may not be great at it, you may not be the best out of it, but you could be competent. And we got to be competent with our finances. You better be a competent driver with your finances, your health, right? Those things like that are going to come back at you if you're not trying to become better at them, right?
Right. Let me ask you this. If you could go back in time and give one bit of advice to your younger self, financial advice, what advice would you give yourself?
I laugh about this and I'm like, okay, I would tell myself to be saving for my retirement, right? Because I'm in the profession that I love. And when I was younger, I would say things, when I have more, I'll save more. I'll think about that. It's
Yeah.
so far away. I'll deal with it later. And I didn't understand compounding interest and investing, and 401ks were newer. And I just didn't understand a lot of that. So, um, but I know that money, like when I say, oh, you want to have a retirement savings. Why? Because at some point, you might want to quit what you're doing and or you might be forced to quit what you're doing, and that will give you space and time and allow you to do that. Emergency funds, I tell people the same thing. Why do you need an emergency fund? Because when something happens, and things will happen always, we don't know what they are. That's why they're an emergency, right? It gives us space and
Yeah.
time to make a decision. So we're not under that fight or flight, freeze, fawn, those stress responses. We're just giving some space for that kind of thing. So I would have said, save your money and get a prenup because so that way you could still have it and
Yeah.
not have to start over again.
Right. One of you just hit on something that I really want to touch on before we finish up. Fight or flight is dangerous in many ways. And there was a video I saw yesterday, and it was of this deer that was running across a field, and it got scared. And so it tried to jump over a fence that wasn't even there, and it was an open gate. It jumped through the open gate and hit on a tree and broke its back. And it was like this video online, and people were like, oh, that's so sad. And it was, but the only reason the deer got hurt was because it freaked out. That fight or flight makes us do things at times that are not smart, that are not in our best interest. And if you have that safety net, if you have that financial safety net, you don't have to worry. You don't have to be, I mean, you can still worry, but you're not going to make the bad decisions that you might if you didn't have it, you know? And so I think that I love that you said that. And I love that you're saying compounding interest. I was talking to my daughter about that the other day. And I finally I got through the concept, and she's like, "Wow, I need to start saving now." And I said, "Yes, we do. This is something we start doing right now to start, so that by the time you're 65." She's like, "That's so far away." I said, "It is right now, but it's not going to be so far away in a couple years.
Right.
So you start now, and then by the time 65 isn't so far away, you'll be in a much better place."
And just having a positive relationship with money,
Yeah.
knowing that it's a thing and what you can make it can do for you, because you also don't want to be the person that saves everything and never enjoys life and is waiting for retirement to do the fun things. You don't wanna live a life like that either, right? So it's
Yeah.
like trying to find, the sweet spot in between and, not letting lifestyle creep, trying to get the best, and
Right.
again, that fight or flight, I mean, in training for my job, you always fall to your lowest level of training when you're in that mode, and the better trained you are, the better you can handle certain situations. Because the body is those situations, the body is trying to save you. Sometimes it makes the right choice in the moment, and sometimes it doesn't.